Okay, we're learning the mimer. We've learned this obviously before. There's only one mimer in Shmini, and this is the mimer Levyatan Zayitzat L'Sachik Boy, the mimer of the Levyatan and the Shor Habor. So we should be a little familiar with this. I think we've done it about 3 times. Okay. Isa b'medrash Rabbah Parsha Shmini Parsha Yud Gimel. It says in the Medrash on Shmini. Bahamas for Levyatan Haim, the Behema means the great ox, and the Levyatan is the great fish.
I'm not on the I'm not on the same. Oh, wait a minute.
It's page 4 of the PDF.
Oh, I see. Yeah, page 4. Okay, here we go.
So it says Bahamas Leviathan, the behema and the great fish, is kinegon, is like the spectacle of or the so to say what's going to be for public display. Shal Tzadikim lasad lavai, for the righteous in the world to come. Which basically it's gonna be a concept of understanding, just like when you show someone something, so we get understanding to it. So too, it's going to give us a clarity for the tzaddikim of what was really going on in this world throughout the time of creation. And what's going to happen in this kinegon is the behemoth noitzes levyasan, the ox is going to gore the fish, bekarnov, with its horn, the koire, and by doing so, it's going to cut it open, so to say, fillet it. The Levyatan, and at the same time, the Levyatan, which is like a large fish, is noises lebahamais besan pirov v'neicharai, is going to slaughter the behema with its fin, as like a knife to cut it, and so basically both the fish and the meat are going to be prepared, so to say. And then from there is going to come the feast of the time of Mashiach, the famous feast of the Levyatan and the Shor Habor and the old wine, etc. And the Medrash says, did we not learn in the Masechtas Chulin, which talks about the laws of slaughtering, that hakol shoichtin, anyone can slaughter, ubakol shoichtin, and with anything you can slaughter, la'olam shoichtin, and there's never a time you cannot slaughter, as opposed to karbonos have times and places, etc., and people who could do it. Chutz mimagal kotzir, aside from, you cannot use hey Howard, you cannot use a saw that a saw with so to say teeth, because it doesn't cut straight. It kind of rips apart, but doesn't give a clean cut. Chutz mimagal kotzir. And then, so the Medrash answers, Chidesh Torah me'ititaitze. There's going to be certain laws. Chidesh Torah means from the word Chadesh, new. There'll be certain new laws, and therefore, what wasn't permissible today, or what's not permissible today, to use a teethed kind of sword that tears apart the meat, is going to have to be a clean. We know that the chalaf, the knife that's used by the shochet, is very careful. It can't have any kind of bumps in it. It has to be totally clean on the metal part, on the cutting side. So today that's the only way we want to slaughter. But in the times of Mashiach, they're going to be able to use, and we're going to learn at the end of the Maimer, they're going to need to use in this kind of ceremony a kind of knife that doesn't have a clean cut for a reason. That it says Shekadosh Baruch Hu yatir oz shchita zu, that then Hashem is going to permit this kind of slaughtering. Sheyishchit halavyasin esabehem b'san pirav. So a fin is like a jagged saw. Just like a fin, which has little, the bones, so to say, stick out, so it's not a clean cut, but it's going to be like a jagged saw. That's now not permissible, but then it will be. So therefore, the Levyatan slaughtering of the Shor Habor is going to be a permissible kind of slaughtering, and therefore we'll be able to eat from the ox that was slaughtered by the fish. And he says, "Ubahamis elum." What are these animals? What are we talking about? So he says, "Ze'inyan Shor Habor." This is what's brought down about the great ox. Like it says, "Bahari Aleph Tor Bor." In the mountains of thousands, the Tor is a shor, means an ox of the bar, also means of the wilderness. All right. So this is a Medrash that talks about when Mashiach comes, is going to be this big, great campaign between the Levyatan, the great fish, which is a tradition we have, that this is the great fish that was created in the time of creation under the earth, and this is the great ox, and then they're going to have so to say an engagement where they're going to fight against each other, and the end is going to be that the ox is going to fillet the fish, and the fish at the same time is going to slaughter the ox, and even though it's using its fin, which is not a straight, clean cut, nevertheless that will be permissible in the times of Mashiach. Okay.
Yeah, am I the only one who can't see the pictures? Like I can't see you tonight?
I see myself, so maybe, I don't know. Howard, do you see my picture, Reb Shimon? Do you see the picture? I don't know. I
Yes,
see.
I'm able to see your video, no problem.
Okay, well, must be my phone.
You
And
might
okay,
have to reboot or
that's okay.
by exiting and then coming back on, but whatever.
Okay. So thank you, Howard. So it says like this: Shor Habor. What does this all mean spiritually? There's two types of righteous people. We're talking about tzaddikim, the not the idea of everyone is a tzaddik, which is va'amcha kulam tzaddikim, right? People are all tzaddikim. But we're talking about tzaddikim in practice as well. Ha'alev, the one type is, or the first type, oisen shem b'seis, are those who do things quietly. It's not just that they're humble. Their whole operation is a quiet operation. They're living in a double reality, or their real reality is not what they project. It's like a spy, a spy could have a whole image that has nothing to do with the reality. They're there to do something else. Those who are doing things hiddenly, in a hiding way, that their whole avodah is also in a spiritual way. You don't see them doing anything. Sometimes you'll see certain people that they're never davening. Or then you see that the Alter Rebbe is now going to describe people who didn't have the ability to do things. Like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave, just technically could not do certain things. But he also mentions the Arizal, which was able to do things, but it's that what we see them doing is nothing to the reality of what's really happening in their actions or behavior or kavanah. So Oisen Shem B'Seiser, those who are in a way of hiding, Shavedasim Beruchnis, everything that they're doing is in a spiritual plane level. Pirish B'Kavanas Alev, it's all with deep intentions of the heart. Liyached Yechudim, to make unifications of like spiritual sources of things. So even something that's physical, that in this world has a spiritual source of life. So when you do Yechudim, you do unifications, it's connecting the spiritual power, so to say, of something with the core of godliness. Uvechinas Aliyas, and there's all these elevations, but it's not in a physical way. And he gives an example, Kegoin Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, like the great Tanner Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar, when he lived with his son in hiding in the cave for 13 years, the Alter Rebbe says, certainly, it was impossible for us to assume that he was able to, in a regular way, do regular mitzvahs. It says that their whole sustenance means that all they had as far as foods or resources were rak charuva ve'eina demai. They only had a boxer tree and a stream of water. So they only had two foods, one water and one was the boxer. The barlu that was created for them, meaning vimkain like hayim achil matz pesach. They obviously didn't have matzah. Matzah requires wheat. The kiddush al yain, they couldn't make kiddush on wine. They didn't have wine. The esrog, there's no way they had an esrog because they only said they had a carob tree, and they didn't have a sukkah because they lived in a cave. The Chayin Arizal, and then he answered, but Arizal did live in this world. But nevertheless, from the very fact that we see that there's a concept of spiritual service, and surely Reb Shimon Bar Yochai did these things for 13 years in a spiritual way. So too, that even if someone is in a reality where they have the ability to do it, but that's like a facade. It's not the real reality of what's happening in their life. And he says, so too the Arizal, is like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. And the Rebbe in the Maimer adds, so to the Baal Shem Tov, that they see in footnote number 13, V'chena Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was also, means even though the Baal Shem Tov obviously lived in our space and he was doing mitzvahs, but these are people that live in another reality. Ratzalaimer, meaning to say, Adarach Mashakasa B'Zohar, it says in the Zohar, Al Pasuk on the verse, V'yidgul L'roiv B'kerev Aretz, that's the idea of the Yidgul L'roiv, there's going to be plenty in the word Dagim on the earth. Mashenkim B'shar Nunei Yoima, so here the Alter Rebbe says with the Tzemach Tzedek, whoever wrote this footnote, the parenthesis says that there's the concept of the fish that go onto the dry land, which is the idea of that the Rizal or the Shimon Bar Yochai. So they're seemingly on dry land. Dry land has dry land rules, right? You got to do the mitzvahs and Torah mitzvahs, but they're really fish. They're living. They're just here on the land, but they really operate like sea creatures. Which he says, but the actual fish that can never come into the land, that's angels. Okay. The Abeis, so that's one tzaddik. So one tzaddik is a tzaddik that's doing everything in a hidden reality with a hidden agenda, like the Baal Shem Tov, who had a whole group of hidden tzaddikim. Some of them seemed like simple or even obnoxious people, but nevertheless, they're the person you meet at the kotel who could, or not at the kotel, who knows where, at this grocery store, it's not always a holy place that you meet them, that they look annoying and obnoxious to you, and that could be the most important person in the world, but it's not, what they're projecting has nothing to do with the reality, and they're not looking for you to, it's not about, they don't care if you're judging them, because you're judging an external reality. They're accomplishing things in a way that you don't even know, possibly with you yourself, and they're engaging with you. And therefore the miyachid yichudim, they have these unifications. So you could have either a reality of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai who couldn't physically do it, or you have the reason Baal Shem Tov who could physically do it, but it's not what's really going on. So that's number one. Abay is the second type of tzaddik, is Haim Oisen Tzadikim, these righteous people. Shehem Begili, everything, what you see, how they project is what their avodah is. Shavadasim Megashmis, they serve God in a physical way. Bekima mitzvahs maisis, and how they perform diligently all the mitzvahs, and you see them in the kavanah, and you see the passion, and you learn from them, you get inspired from them, so to say. They're happy in the times of holiday. It's a simcha actually. Shehu Gam came top of page 5. Hamshacha Oris al Yoinim, when a person's happy, and when you perform the mitzvahs, of course you're bringing down great elevations. Moedei Havaya, it's a time of holidays. And why are they happy? Because of the revelations of the times of the holiday. Because there's revelations of the infinite that happens on a holiday, and that brings physical joy. And they're experiencing that and projecting that. And you have to do actual mitzvahs. Like it says, in the times of the temple, how did you experience simcha? You had to eat the shalmeis simcha. You ate the karbanos. The Hainu mitzvah shalmei simcha, the karbanis of the chag, she'mevim echol yom tov, that each person as their family brought on the holiday. And v'achshav, now that we don't have the sacrifices, ein simcha el b'yayin. We have simcha, but it's wine. The person has an obligation to drink a revius of wine on every day yom tov. The kaman, as will be explained. As will be explained means the concept of the ma'isa, the actual mitzvahs that are done by these tzaddikim. So there's the open tzaddik. What you see is what they're doing, and there's the hidden tzaddik, is that even if you see them doing things, or you see them, or there's a reality, but that's not the real reality. Okay, and like he says, "V'ikram shachas of Pesach," and how does one physically bring down Pesach? Is aydei matzah. You have to eat matzah, and he said before that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai couldn't eat matzah. Ubeshvuas, and what is the mitzvah of shvuas? What is the hamshach of shvuas? Adei matan Torah, through the giving of the Torah. He puts a footnote over here that the Rebbe talks about this in 1969, because matan Torah is not a physical. It doesn't even say you have to eat cheesecake on Shavuos. So it's not a physical thing that you're doing. Ubesukos, but sukkos is idei sukkah v'lulav uminav. Sukkah, you have to sit in a sukkah. You have to have this 4 species. When you can't do these things. You're not bringing anything down. So Pesach you bring down through matzah. Shavuos through matan Torah. Sukkah says you have to sit in a sukkah and you have to have the dal minim. Alva Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, but Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, which we said before, didn't have an ability to do any of these. But because he was like the fish, Nune Yaima, the Azim Bayabashta, like the fish, like the sea creature that could also go on the land. So he's in the land, he's here, but he's not a land creature, he's a sea creature. So he did it all when he was sitting in the tent through spiritual unifications, not through physical attachments. Meaning the difference between a fish animal or fish, a soul, so to say, that lives in a physical body, even if it's in the physical world, is that they're operating like a fish still. They're fish in land. They're not humans in land. Where the tzaddik, the Shor Habor, is a human, and a human has to do human things. Okay. Now, v'hine, v'emes, the Rebbe says like this, the Alter Rebbe says like this. Truthfully said, it's impossible. He says in Yiddish, unreirn. So he wants to tell us, what does he mean lagia? Lagia doesn't mean to get somewhere, but unreirn means to touch something. You can't touch spirituality, elikus, godliness, idea avoided through physical. How could holding an esrog really touch godliness? It's an esrog. It's a fruit. Hagashmis. The truth is, how do you touch spirituality, godliness? Is through spiritual avoda. Spiritual avoda is that you're connecting what's behind the physical manifestation. The energy is behind it, because that's all spiritual. But when it comes into physical form, the physical form is, even though everything's from the word of God, but it's not a spiritual interaction, seemingly. So he says, You can't really touch spirituality with physical things that you do. Only through the avodah ruchnis, the spiritual. Now, the flip side about this is some people, I think I was telling you guys last class or 2 classes before, I met a person who tells me, I said, you asked him, you want to put on film? He goes, no, I don't want to do anything physical that will get in the way of my spiritual connection to Hashem. So seemingly saying the same thing what the Alter Rebbe says over here, that you can't touch godliness with something physical. So he's saying, I don't want to put on film because film is something physical. I have a spiritual connection. But that's talking about a nuna yoima. You have to be a spiritual being. You can't live a physical life. Everything else you do have the difference. I'm not saying I'm not judging this person. Could be this person was a fish that I didn't know. But in theory, the concept of it is that a person can say, well, everything else I'm going to do physically, right? Everything, all other enjoyments in life that I'm going to do physically. But when it comes to God, then I'm going to be spiritual. That doesn't work like that. The fish, their whole life is a spiritual life. So then their connection to God is spiritual as well. But you can't have it that everything, the pleasures in life, the things that you want, the physical things, that of course you're going to experience physically. But God, I'm going to do on a spiritual level. Okay, that's just a footnote. So these tzadikim are called nuna yoima. They're called the creatures of the sea. Kedogim, like fish, elu shayam chasaleim. Just like when you look at the sea. If it's not a clear sea, especially, right? You look at the Puget Sound, you don't see anything. So you look at sea, you just see a sea. But inside, there's a whole life energy going on, all kinds of different creatures and fish. So that the water covers them. These people live in a hidden reality, a hidden world. Now the Alter Rebbe says, these kind of beings are Nevi generations. They're not just Arizal or Shim Bayachai. These are the hidden tzadikim. The concept of the hidden tzaddik, or what some people know as the 36 tzaddikim, but there wasn't just the 36 tzaddikim. 36 tzaddikim, their job is just to be. But you have also that, like the Baal Shem Tov's times, and I'm sure that happens today. Just obviously, if you're not a member of the club, maybe you don't know of their existence. But in the times of the Baal Shem Tov, we know from the Friedrich Rebbe telling us about the whole network of hidden tzaddikim, and they weren't just praying quietly in the forest. They were very active, extremely active amongst Jewish communities and sent to places as so to say undercover operators, getting things done from a hidden space. And what they were doing was very effective in whether they became teachers to children. They're doing all kinds of things with a plan. There was a huge plan and with a strategy of saving the Jewish people in the times of Baal Shem Tov, when kind of people were feeling spiritually dead. So these are the hidden tzaddikim. Again, they're operators and very fast, like the Alter Rebbe is going to say, but not in a way that we see. When they're connecting the worlds with the infinite, like it says by King David, that David was connecting God with Torah. What does it mean connecting God with Torah? That his avodah was so spiritual that it was bringing out what seemingly looks like physical laws, and connecting the spiritual concepts of them. That's why it's called the Levyatan. The word Levyatan is from the word Levia, to accompany, to put things together. Lashon hischabris, to connect. Like it says that when Leah named her son Levi, Hapami Lavi Ishi, now my husband will accompany me. We will be connected. So the idea of the Levyatan is to connect things in the oilam iskasi, in the hidden world. It says, Ayin, look in Perkama Avodah Zara, Amid Ravi, Daf Gimel, Amid Beis, that when it goes into the times frames of what Hashem spends is 12 hours. So it says the fourth 3 hours is Yeshiv Musachikim Levyasan. God takes pleasure with Avodah of Levyasan. So the highest level says the first 3 hours Hashem learns, the second 3 hours Hashem judges, the third 3 hours God provides, and the fourth 3 hours God plays, so to say, takes joy in the avodah of the Levyatan and the undercover operators that are getting things done. So v'hine begimel shoyis revi is the last four, the fourth of the 3 hours. Unikra samacha mincha. That's the time of mincha. Elisa begemar reish perik avi psachim. That's the last quarter of the day is connected to the mincha davening. Yitzchak, and who is the one who instituted the tefillah of mincha, is Yitzchak tikkun tefillas mincha. And what is Yitzchak's avodah? Yitzchak represents schok, laughing, happiness, schok. That from Elikim, from concealment, I see joy. And that's the time God takes joy in the unknown, like Elohim is the unknown, is the concealment of godliness. So too, when God is, so to say, finishes learning, which is revealed, and finishes judging, which is obviously revealed, and finishes providing, when the judging is obviously too judgmental, God has to go into providing Rahmanas, is obviously in a reality. Then Levyatan is what's really happening. Also Yitzchak, the reason why there's chayk, because he dug wells, he revealed inner potential in people. The Pashas of Hayim Shema, like it says, what the Gemara says in Brachas, that that when a person, the second part of the Shema, V'hayim Shemaya, that talks about our action, we say b'chol levavcha chol nafshcha, we give our heart and our soul. It says, the Gemara says, that's not really doing God's will 100%. Because you're not ready to give all your might. It means you give as much as you have. You're not ready to give more. My Parsha Shema, but in Parsha Shema, the first Parsha, we say b'chol nafshcha b'chol vavcha chol nafshcha meidecha. Parsha Shema, dahainu shleisam shacha v'gilim misayf kalamim v'mimal kalamim shnei nikrais shayin shemakim zat dafka b'chol meidecha bli gvul. How does one bring down from the infinite light, from the encompassing light into the space of the world? Is only when you go out of your comfort zone, after you go to b'chol meidecha. Means even if you give your max, it's max of what you have. B'chol meidecha is you give everything. And you want to do Oisin and Tzayin Shemakim, you want to make the will of God, which is what God takes the pleasure in the last 3 hours of the operation of the Levyatan. That's the one who's the person who's giving B'chol Me'edecha all your might. Top of page 6. This is what we're talking about over here. You want to reach, as you say, God accompanies me in my avoda. This only happens with the righteous people that are called the sea creatures, the ones that are operating in a concealed way, that are getting things done. They're not projecting their avoda. Even if a person does what they're supposed to do, but they're not giving their full might, so that's not doing avoid. That's not doing the tzayne shemaka. It's brought down in the beginning of Avodah Zarah that Mishachar Beis Hamikdash Ein Tzchok. Once the destruction of the temple, there's no more laughter, right? Because then the avodah is less, and the avodah is less. There's no laughter. There's something else we could say. Based on Nari, okay, we're going to skip this. Is going to Kabbalistic teachings. So I just want to finish the last. It says the last paragraph before the end of the parentheses, V'hine Omer Zal, a rabbi said, so there's no laughter. So what does God do? This is an amazing idea. So what does God do? If God doesn't, in the last 3 hours, it says that he takes pleasure in the avodah of the hidden tzaddik, of the Levyatan, and if there's the next idea of schoik, laughter, so what does God do if he's not laughing? So what's he doing the last 4 hours? So it says, amazing thing. He teaches the children Torah, and as it's brought down, I'm trying to remember where I seen it. It's brought down. Which children is it talking about? It's talking about the children who never learn. I think Rashi says over there. 42 is in Avodah Zarah. Yeah, Rashi says over there. The Rashi in Avodah Zarah. I learned actually this more. The Rashi in Avodah Zarah says, which children is he teaching? He's teaching the children that died young, the children who never lived to learn Torah. They died in their youth. Whether they were killed, murdered, October 7th, Nazis, whatever happens, different reasons a child doesn't live out their life. So they never had the ability to learn Torah. So what does God do? He does the avodah of the hidden tzaddik. What's the hidden tzaddik? Teaching Torah to young children. So how does God spend his most important time? Is teaching the children Torah. Okay. Now back to the original text. So that's all nice. That the main avodah is the avodah of the hidden tzaddik. But we live in a physical world. We can't just have that the symbol of the perfection of human interaction with the world should be represented only by the hidden tzaddik. Because this is a physical world, and most people only could identify with the physical world. And therefore there has to be the tzaddikim that also do the physical avodah. They have to do the actual mitzvah, not just symbolically or yichudim or unifying the concept of a lulav and esrog. There has to be a lulav and esrog. There has to be a sukkah. Husham Razal, Omodecha, the Tzaddik Shmoi. What is the beam of creation, the beam of the world? Is the Tzaddik. Shalav Ha'olam, the world stands, and that's actual avoda. And so the Tzaddik that is also here is also in the sea. But there has to be Tzaddikim here also. You need both. He says, excuse me. Now he goes back. These righteous people that are called like sea creatures, are very, very high spirit. This part of the Maimer, the Alter Rebbe celebrates more the hidden tzaddik. In the beer, he goes more into the physical tzaddik. So here he says this avoda says nifla v'gavoya moed is very great. Just like for example, hash dogim, a fish, sheshatim b'yam that swims in the sea. Just like the speed the fish has and the ability to maneuver from space to space, quietly, sleek, moving, doesn't make a lot of commotion. I'm talking about killer whales or these big whales that go out of their space. But talking about the ones who are, they're operating fast under the water. Is with one, they move very fast. With one swim, they could go very high. Their ability, they don't have to stop at things. To go to be in a sitting there with a person and then bringing up high spiritual, everything's happening very fast and with much less limitations. It's much greater than the avoda, that the movement that happens with the physical tzaddik, which is simcha b'basar. You eat the meat, you have a meal. So there's all these limitations and time consuming. Shakol l'mativ madrega is much lower. Mashenkin hilucham shu kumashal dag, but the hidden tzaddik, when it moves, it's like the fish. Sheshat miktzei ha'olam v'at katzei. We can move from one side of the world to the next. Obviously, we're talking about not just fish, but super fast fish. Kachilucham beruchni, so too in a spiritual way. Betisa achas mitein shuf, with one swim. Olam magim l'mayla, they go very high. So their movements, not just from place to place, but in spiritual spaces, up and down, is very fast. Now he says it's not about, their movement isn't passion. It's not at all about passion. It's not hislavis. Hislavis means excitement. It's not resichas dam. It's not boiling blood, passion. Like the physical tzaddik, where you see they get very excited when they're davening. Simcha b'basar, simcha b'yayin. When they're happy with the meat and the wine and the avodah and they're doing the mitzvahs. And we're not putting it down. It's passionate. There's a fire. El-adrabah, actually the contrary. Everything you see, whatever they project is coldness. You don't see that when the Friedrich Rebbe, if one is to read the Friedrich Rebbe Zechronis, we talk amazing thing to read. But when you read the Friedrich Rebbe Zechronis and he points out the life of these tzaddikim, everything about them was quiet, not in your face, very unassuming. They were very light-footed. They can move in and out of a community within days. As soon as some way or another they had to reveal themselves, by the next morning they were gone, as if they never existed. They moved, no one knows where they went. They were very, very light-footed. They're very mobile. And very quiet. There's no passion, no excitement about them. Famous story that Friedrich Rebbe says about a priest who was forcing the Jews of a city to hear lectures on Christianity, and he was a nobody. This guy was like this guy who lived in the corner. He was a shoe cleaner, or someone who did something really basic. And all of a sudden, he was the one who put the priest in his place, and then the next morning he was gone. So El Adraba, not with the excitement. Bekrir Damim, cold-blooded. Ubenachas, calm. Ubetisa Achas, in a very fast swim. Magim Mile, they could go very high. Like I said, everything, they're mobile, they're fast-moving. The Alter Rebbe says, after everything's said and done, one can't really describe what this avodah is of the hidden tzaddik, even after he described it for the past few pages. So therefore, it wasn't obligatory, so to say. For Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the Yos B'Mara, when he was in the tent, in the cave, everything was spiritual. Is way beyond the idea of finding joy through physical foods, etc. This is, and what is the tool, so to say, of the fish is his fin. That allows the fish to move fast. And therefore we say the oilam stands on an omid, which is the tzaddik, but also stands on the Levyatan. It's brought down that the fish, so to say, is underneath surrounding, as an encompassing energy of protection. Like these tzaddikim, like I said, that the Baal Shem Tov would send them out. They were very busy. They had meetings. It wasn't just each person did what they did. There was a system. There was a head of the hidden tzaddikim. And they had decisions. They had votes. What would be the avodah? It was a big deal that the Baal Shem Tov, as a young boy, was able to institute the idea of teaching, that they should become teachers. But there was. It says Eliyahu Navi never left those gatherings. I mean, this is an undercover operation. But also, the Mashiach comes. So what's going to happen? There's going to be not a confrontation. There's going to be he says the word milchama, but not. We're going to see both sides of the coin. We're going to see the reality of the passionate tzaddik, and we're going to see the reality now of the hidden tzaddik. And what's going to happen is this hidden tzaddik is going to slaughter the revealed tzaddik. What does that mean? The second avoda, which is called the Shor Habor, the great ox, like it says, the Shor Mismol, the ox is on the left side of the chariot. We're not talking about a physical ox in a way that is just eating grass. It's bar v'zach. It's a refined level of ox. When the revealed tzaddik is joyful on Yom Tif through meat, and they eat meat. The hidden tzaddik is not sitting there excited because the steak tastes good. It's the spirituality within the steak, but he's eating the physical meat. But it's the carbon. That's the idea of it. This is a carbon. Just like in the temple times, the physical carbon was a physical carbon. So too the revealed tzaddik, even while he's doing physical things, it's the mitzvah component in it. That the physical carbon brought God pleasure. So too the simcha Yom Tov. The joy is not in the meat. The joy is in God. We're asking because today we don't have the physical carbon. We're asking that the things that we're doing today should be a way for us to take joy in the Eibishter, but the focus is godliness. That's why it's called bar, a clear heart. Pirish basar zachu bar, clear meat. That the joy that's created through the physical avoda is a joy for God. That gives, just like the food feeds energy, it feeds a rishveish, an ability to have passion, mislavas, and excitement for God. But that all excitement that you're feeling and you're projecting at the same time, and bringing others in your simcha, that's the job of a tzaddik. It's solo. You're bringing others into that simcha who are either your talmidim or take inspiration from you. But nevertheless, Alpha became misla zutri. This is something small. In comparison to what's happening with the hidden tzaddik, which are called the fish. Because at the end of the day, the fuel for it is something physical and has limitations. But the hidden tzaddik, it's not about the passion. You're not fueling passion. It's all avoda, it's all service. It means the end of the day is the revealed tzaddik is taking the physical things, and through physical things that feed a person and give a person energy, that energy he's turning into positive, holy energy. The fish is not taking. It's not trying to project energy, not trying to project excitement. It's dafka the contrary. It's cold, but it's all focused. Mamish is all about avoda, just avoda itself of the service. That he says, "Bekriderus," that it's cold, benachas, quiet, magia l'mal reaches very high. She which is much greater. So therefore, he explains, because the avoda of the Levyatan is much greater. The Levyatan is going to slaughter the Shor, which represents the physical tzaddik, the passionate tzaddik. What does it mean to slaughter? We know that the word shchita, also limshoch, to pull, is, even though it's a ches or a chaf, that is through its movement, it elevates. That the shor should also have the elevations of the fish. That's why he uses his fin, because that's its power of movement. This is much greater what the Shor Habor could ever achieve, and therefore the fish elevates the Shor Habor to experience the focused, so to say, cold-blooded, quiet avoda. But he says at the same time, it's going to be two sides. Like we said at the beginning, the Medrash says the Shor is going to fillet the fish. Because in one way, at the end of the day, the avoda of the tzaddik, of the revealed tzaddik, is greater. Even if it's physical, even if it's passionate. But that's at the end what the Torah says you have to do. You need to take physical things. You have to sit in a physical sukkah. There's not the hidden tzaddik is living outside of really the story of Torah, because the Torah is in this physical world. Besides, like I said before, a person can't just say, I have a spiritual connection to Hashem. If you're not the hidden tzaddik, then you have to do whatever you have to do the regular avodah. So mitzad zayala is saying that's going to be the elevation that the fish is going to get from the ox. This is what God's going to show. God's going to show the full picture. So today we see, if anything, we see half a picture. But when you don't see the other side, it's hard to really understand what's going on. You only see what's being shown to you. When you see everything that's happening, both the sea and both the dry land, so he says, therefore, because both of them, it says, sorry, this is what God's going to show in the world to come. Everything that happened in this world, from both sides. Both of them are good. Some have this advantage, and some have other advantages. And he says in the parentheses, the reason it's called Shor Habor, bar also means sustenance. Yishbar Yosef bar. Yosef gave bar. He gave foods. Like it says, V'rav Tvuos, where do you get a lot of wheat is the power of the ox, right? If you try to plow yourself, you're not as strong as an ox. The Rov Koach is Tvuos Shor. It goes both ways. The Shor has power because he eats the wheat, and also the Shor creates the wheat because of his power of the ability to plow. Like it says, in my life, I never called my ox, I called it my field, because the field is benefits from the ox. And Torah is called the first harvest. And what does it mean, the first harvest? Who creates the first harvest is the Shor, the ox, the avoda, the tzaddik who lives in this world. That's why Shor Habor. They call the Shor that gives bar, not refinement, but food. Another thing we could say, we said the We said before that this physical tzaddik is the beam of the world. The fish is the support of the world. But here he says the beam of the world. Like I said before, Yosef is mashbir. Who nikra shor? He's also called the ox. Like God, that Moshe Rabbeinu refers to the ox element within Yosef. Okay. Then he finishes off the mimer. We'll just finish. So why? Back to the original question. Do we need a jagged, not a straight cut? Because there's going to be such a powerful elevation to the physical avoda, it can't happen so fast. You have to take it in a little bit. Even though this is considered a damaged slaughtering, and therefore it's not kosher. Because of the separation, it's going to have to be that way. Because that elevation, today we're taking a physical cow and permitting to eat it. So therefore, we have to take it out of klipas noga to make it kosher. But in the Mashiach's times, it's going to be not just going to be that we're taking something not kosher, we're taking a tzaddik, and we're elevating the tzaddik here super high. So therefore, that has to be loaded. It says that. Therefore, he says, "This is bringing the tzaddik very high, not taking a physical food and making it kosher or edible. That through the fish that elevates it with its fin, it has to have a separation so it's not too fast. One cannot have, you can't just super fast move someone. Like we know, there's the concept of a heichel. Heichel is a chamber. A chamber is you can't imagine you going into to Versailles and you run through it in 3 seconds. It's okay, I saw the palace. You didn't see the palace. You have to go into each room and each chamber. There's the chamber of merit, the chamber of want. You have to go in there and to appreciate it, to understand what's going on. The fish moves fast because they're very connected, but to take someone that's out of that space, they have to go through slowly. And therefore, top of page 8, finishing off, that can't happen all at once. There has to be a separation between each chamber, otherwise it just looks like a big room. Therefore, God is going to permit to have such kind of slaughtering. And how is the fish going to be filleted? Through the horn of the shor. The Alter Rebbe does not go into what that means. But in the second, in the beer, those who have the beer, the Alter Rebbe goes into much more at length the elevation that the revealed tzaddik gives. Comparison, the concept of a horn is the keser. The horn also, we know that King David was anointed with a Karen. So there's the idea of the Karen that's connected to the Keser, to the want. So everything goes into a full circle. We didn't learn the beer. Maybe next year, whether Mashiach comes or not, we're going to have to learn Chassidus still. So we're going to maybe just start with the beer. Laila Tov, everyone, and a good Shabbos and a Shavua Tov and a Chodesh Tov. Take care.